You know about that's just more than suspect, or you have proof on, because there's many of these conspiracies, from things like David Icke, Alex Jones. Over here you've got things like TNS, the UK column, Truth Juice, Roger Hayes, Lou Collins, Holly Gregg, Edge Media, The Love Police, and Anonymous and Occupy, things like that. So do you know anything about any of them labels?
Oh, do you know what? All of the above. Let me take this to as far as I can by saying you need to understand that control isn't always overt. I think that's one lesson we have learned from David Icke, is that often control is covert, and that often means that some people are being used as blind instruments and they're not even aware of it. But it's for us, the awake and aware population, who are learning to discern the truth. And, you know, I've been around the mill a few times, and I've worked with lots of interesting people. I can certainly see where these elements have crept in, and they are manipulating these people, and these people are being used in certain ways. So let me put this to you another way. Okay, you've got all these people who propose to be writers and journalists of the alternative media. Every single journalist, okay, that is officially called a journalist, that works for a media agency, a mainstream media agency, okay, first off, most of them have defense clearing, military defense clearing, okay. They actually will have a military defense identification, which means that they are actually considered agents of intelligence. So that is, you know, if you want to draw the link to what's gone on with your telephone hacking scandal in the UK, all right, that actually, and I've been trying to say for a long time, that is a good example of how actually I believe media, mainstream media, is actually more intelligence-based than it is sort of media-based. But hang on, intelligence has always been about controlling the population, and intelligence controls all media. So of course, the journalists are working for the intelligence agencies, and we have to then see them, all right, as intelligence operatives. You don't, and I've recently worked with Dr. Judy Wood, and she said to me, you know, they planned 9/11, you don't think they planned the cover-up? You know, if you don't like the lie behind door number 1, they show you the lie behind door number 2. And we have to keep going until we sort of find something that goes, oh, hang on, that kind of makes a bit more sense, because a lot of it is being put out there to distract us from the deeper truths. And yes, there are definitely people, a lot of the people you've mentioned, who have big question marks, and I have lots of proof, and I've put out lots of articles and evidence, information, and various YouTube footage tapes. Please, you know, if anyone wants to check them out, do. And you can see how I've, over time of working with these people, built up this file of information with regards to certain people that categorically put them in a situation where we, the public, are questioning them, because they are certainly not working towards the best interests of humanity with what they're doing, specifically by manifesting and profiteering of the truth movement, which ultimately we need to be working away from a monetary system, not taking more money from those people we're trying to help. And that is the bottom fundamental orientation people need to get their heads around. There are people, and the first one I want to speak about, you've just had him on, and I'm ashamed that Ian Crane couldn't actually be bothered to face me, because I've opted many times to have an intellectual debate with him regarding this, and he won't take me on, because he won't win. He knows I've got all the evidence. He knows I'm holding all the cards. And
what evidence is this? Because like, I don't know the full ins and outs. I saw something that you posted up a while ago, a little blog on Facebook, something to do with the TV channel or something, but I didn't get the full picture, so well, in your words.
Ian Crane, the full picture is not too hard to find. As I mentioned, we own a little media company. We build websites, I make commercials and stuff, you know, within this little business that we have, you know, to keep us going in this 3D world we still live in. But the simple fact is, with our business, we actually have some very sophisticated software scanning equipment which scans websites, because we need it for the business to build websites for various companies. And we can scan websites online to see what links they've got attached to them, you know, what links need to be brought over to new sites, etc. Very technical, but bottom line is, we scanned Ian Crane's website. It's not even a website, it's a web shop. Okay, that's what it comes up in Google search. It's a web shop. It is not even an information platform with information on it and a web shop attached. It's just a web shop. And in fact, if you look at the app icon for Ian Crane's web shop, it's actually a little square with a trolley in. All right? So let's start there. Before we actually get into the hard evidence, let's look at the basics, the fundamental orientations of moral belief. You know, are we here to educate people, or are we here to profit off them? And to be honest with you, when you question Ian Crane about some of the deeper layers of the conspiracy realm, which I cover in great detail in my work and through my various evidence and in my books, and yes, I am pointing the finger directly at Rome, you won't hear Ian Crane utter a word. In fact, he will not get into it. And I've actually had email confirmation from someone, and I cannot disclose this person. They sent this to me in utter confidence, stating that Ian Crane was given a choice at one stage to be a big figurehead in the truth movement and make money so long as he stayed away from the topic of the Jesuits, who are ultimately the top controlling secret society within the Roman cult.
Whoa, so this really goes that high, does it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you know, the fact that he won't ever get onto the path of Rome, and all paths lead to Rome, let's be honest. Okay, the whole legal structure is set up and underpinned by a uniform commercial code, which is underpinned by Vatican canon law. You know? So the bottom line is, if he won't look at the source of our control and he's pointing fingers in every other direction, he's not helping us discern the truth. End of story. And if, you know, it doesn't take a genius to work that out.
Well, I've met Ian a couple of times at festivals, and I actually do believe, but belief is not knowing, that there could be other beings from other dimensions, other realms, even on a physical dimension. But without any solid proof in front of me, I'm not going to focus on that because it's not really got a solution. Much like geoengineering, even 9/11, you look at all these theories that are out there. Yes, it was an inside job, without a shadow of a doubt. Yes, the New World Order is strong. The Illuminati is just a label given to the elites, but these people are real. They are controlling the planet by literally a few families, and we can all agree on that. This is the banking families that are controlling, and everyone's saying the banking elites are evil and the money controls people, and then they purposely make money on top of their truth, which is not going to take the banks down at all. It's just going to line their own pockets.
Absolutely.
So other things that you have mentioned, like the Holly Gregg story, you had information on that as well, didn't you?
Yes, okay. The Holly Gregg story. Now, this is a good one to actually get into. And let me just put that aside for 1 minute, because you mentioned 9/11. I first want to touch on that before I get on to the Holly Gregg. The 9/11 is the best example of exactly just how the truth movement has been infiltrated with cooperatives. Judy Wood, for me, is the best example of, and if you watch the interview we did with her, she categorically to me is proof that there has been deliberate co-opted truth movement set up to divert us. So yeah, check out Judy Wood's information, then look at all the other stuff that's been spun about nanothermite by these big names. And there's lots that I can go into there. I've had lots of dealings with various people who've been trying to get me to take on the information so long as I didn't look at Judy Wood's information. There were conditions to me interviewing them. That to me sends up alarms. Okay? So I was like, oh, hang on, you're not letting me discern for myself. So that, you know, when people try to control you, that is always a sign that they're not working to your best interest. Always people should respect your free will. So yes, Judy Wood is the first place to look at when you want to look at how truth movement has been co-opted and manipulated to distract us. But going on to the Holly Gregg thing, which is an important thing, especially for people in the UK, because I think, you know, there was such a frenzy and such a huge support whipped up and so much money made campaigning for this Holly Demands Justice campaign. And even myself, I raised my own funds, and at the time I was living on the floor of a house that I was squatting. To get the money to go over to Edinburgh from Holland, I mean, was like 2 weeks worth of food money that we had to save up. And I was adamant I was going to go. So I went off to meet Robert Greene, and I went off to this conference in Edinburgh, the Wake Up Call conference. And when I got there, they wouldn't let me in the front door. I was just told that I wasn't welcome at the conference, given no explanation why, after having been invited there by email. Anyway, nonetheless, the next day, Robert Greene and Jim Corr met me at the hotel in Edinburgh, and I got an interview with Robert Greene. And of course, I was thrilled. I thought he was a very charismatic man. And of course, with time, after having posted that, people started coming forward with stuff, and I was approached by the collective called the Holly Gregg Hoax Group, who have become some of my most respected friends because they are so non-bullshit. It's unbelievable. They bang down the line. They're good researchers, and they're intelligent people. They don't fluff about. And
I do actually know someone that's joined them that just attacks me constantly. His name's Brian Davis.
Okay.
He even posts up pictures of my daughter, and that's how low some people can get when they're attacking people.
Sure.
Only I can speak for myself, and nobody else can speak for me. But when you get attacked for things that are in your personal life,
yeah,
and it's like, well, my daughter's never asked to be attacked from me.
Yes.
She doesn't even agree with what I do, but
it's, to be honest with you, it's not right of them to bring in your personal life. And you know, talking about Ian Crane, I used to be a professional model, made quite a good living out of it for some years in London. And I was one of the top plus size models in London. I was the most booked model in 2007. I was actually nominated for Model of the Year. I didn't win. But what I would say is Ian Crane went and got hold of one of my old modeling pictures, stuck them up on his Facebook, and started tearing into me and really being very nasty, saying that how can you take this woman seriously as a journalist, you know, when she's got photos like this. And it was a naked photo of me, but it was from behind of me looking back over my shoulder. You could see my naked bottom and my little tattoo just on my lower spine, but you couldn't see any, you know, of the front. It was a positive body image piece. It was a feature I was doing. It was nothing pornographic or glamour or distasteful. It was done as a positive body image piece. I love my body, I love my curves kind of thing. And he took the mickey out of it on Facebook, and he has absolutely no right to delve into what I look like or my personal physical being or my family. And this is what happened with a lot of these people is, you know, they will actually try to get at your personal life. Brian Gerrish has done the same. He's actually said, you know, I've said there's no evidence about Holly Gregg, absolutely none whatsoever, to support the claim. If you look at what is available, it's all conjecture. And he says, well, Mel, I believe you've been abused. Provide evidence that you've been abused, or I'm starting the Mel V hoax group. You know, so this is the mentality of people we're dealing with, is that it's a one-upmanship kind of mentality. It's not, okay, the greater good of all mentality. It's about, I have this little island, I've got to protect it, there's income, prestige, and sort of an external locus of identity, which is my public persona that I have to protect. And you know what, at all costs I'm going to do that, even if it means taking unnecessary and personal jabs at people, their misery, their suffering, or, you know, being small-minded about certain things. They will do it. And this is what I have to say, is these people are being put up on a stage, paraded in front of everybody as these purveyors of truth, when actually they're some of the most corrupt souls and nasty people out there. And do we really want to be putting them in that position?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like, if the revolution is being orchestrated, it's looking more and more like, to me anyway, and I'm quite welcome to let Roger Hayes come on the show, and I've asked him a few times. I'd love him to come on and speak to me about it, because he's got connections to UKIP. There was BNP at the Birkenhead raid where they tried to arrest a judge. Then they go around telling people they arrested a judge. The judge wasn't arrested at all. You know, I mean, I'm standing there myself. It's like cock and bull story to try and get people to join along their free man movement, when I know for a fact that all of that free man information will actually get you in more trouble. So why do you promote it? Because I've seen people that have got silly little parking offences or silly little driving offences, and they've dealt with it in a free man type manner, and they've lost their cars, they've gone to prison over it, and they've had fines, and they've had to go to prison over the fines, and then they still go out and promote the idea. So I don't get that. To me, the way I see that, it's like I would put a free man in the same box as a soldier coming back from war with having his arms and legs blown off. And he's called a hero. And it's much like a free man that will go out and try the process, and he'll fail because he's gone to prison, because this is a corrupt system, and they're not going to listen to you, how honourable you are, and how much these rules should apply to everyone, because this is their crop system and they don't want anyone winning, and it's quite that simple. So to promote it out and out and out and out and out and try and rally people up, it's looking like all the rebellious people out there that are following this information are going to end up losing their cars, their homes, their children, and then how can you, like, well, obviously there'll be an uprising when there's enough people on the streets, but this is like real people, families losing things that they think that they own, but they've all registered it to the state.
Yeah. Well, let me put this to you another way. I've got a very interesting interview with a gentleman on my website, a Dutchman called Francis Capelli, who has basically stated exactly what you've just said through finding out the hard way, okay, through having taken on the system and having been, like, near enough chewed up and shat out the wrong way. Okay, and he's actually written a book exposing the alternative media as a way of deliberately getting people to, you know, he says it's so many wars you can see this happen, the way they instigate people to rise up, and then they've got a reason to sort of like come down and suppress you. And it's a fine line between the two of, yes, standing up, taking our rights, fighting for our freedom, ignoring the system, you know, being emancipated, and then taking on the whole Freeman concept of jumping into court and physically taking these people on in their own territory where you actually have no rights anyway.
Sorry, I was just getting to the mute button then. Yeah, you're right there. It's like they create this body of rules and then they give you a load of rights, but they're the ones that have given them to you and they can take them away. They've created this whole system of lies and the deception. But then when you've got things like the British Constitution Group, which does look like a formal political party forming, and then you've got the Lawful Bank, which pretends to be offering an economic reform, but it doesn't. It's just another fiat-type currency where you can only buy into the Lawful Bank with the current fiat currency that's around. It's no better, no worse. It's not actually in operation either. So people that are donating to this, they've got to wait till, if I'm right with this, I think Roger says something like he needs 1 million people to donate £100 each and then you can start the bank, or something like that. And it just seems a bit like a pyramid scheme to me where Roger will be at the top.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a lot of questions over Roger Hayes, and I tell you, something I've learned over time, and it's a simple thing. It comes down to manners and conduct. I think if you're a nice person, you're genuinely doing this for the right reasons, and you've got nothing to hide, you'll speak openly and honestly with anybody about anything. And Roger has been more than two-faced with regards to myself and coming forward to speak to me. He said he would speak to me. I heard him having a recorded conversation with Chris Jarvis, which Chris Jarvis put out without Roger's permission on the internet. And Roger was going, oh, who's this Mel V? She's come out of nowhere. And Chris goes, no, she's been around for years. She's got a big following kind of thing, blah, blah, whatever. And Chris says, you should speak to her. She's really nice. And just tell her your side. And he goes, yeah, no, I'd love to speak to her. Next thing he goes on to the video that I've posted regarding the UK column, calling me a white South African racist. Now, just because I'm white and I'm South African, he decides to label the most generalized and stereotypical label on me, and he knows nothing about me. What kind of intelligence is this? You know? Yeah. So there's lots of things. There's a lot of discrepancies in the way these people deal with themselves and manage themselves that actually makes me think that there's more going on. They're hiding things. They're getting extra ugly and extra nasty because they are protecting something that's a lot bigger than what they're letting the rest of us know about. And this whole British Constitution Group and the whole UK column thing it's a big ruse. And I've got evidence that I would like to share with you about this because it goes back to my own roots with regards to the UK column. And this is a biggie, okay? And that is that the UK column, the money that funded the setting up of the UK column comes from a woman by the name of Sheila Butler, okay? A woman called Sheila Butler, and Sheila Butler is the great niece of a gentleman by the name of Lord Kissinger, the first Earl of Kissinger, which you might remember if you know your British history. Now, Lord Kitchener was the first Earl of Kitchener, and he was the guy in the Anglo-Boer War who went to South Africa and set up a whole bunch of concentration camps and put all the Boers in them. and then went and burned down all their farms. He had something that he was famous for. It was called the Scorched Earth Policy, which was enacted by Lord Kitchener. Anyone who knows South African history, it's on Wikipedia. You can check this out for yourself. He went and burned down all the Boer farms, all the Boer homesteads, so that the Boers fighting against the British in South Africa, okay, wouldn't have any way to refute themselves. They wouldn't have any homes to come home to. After, if they ever survived the concentration camps, where 26,000 women and children starved to death. Right? So okay, so Lord Kitchener, I'm just giving you a bit of the background history here. So this is, Sheila Butler is the great niece of Lord Kitchener, directly descended from him. Okay, directly descended from him, and she donated the money, but she gives funding to the British National Party. And I know from when I lived in London, I lived there for 9 years, and the British National Party are very xenophobic. And having been a South African living in London, I was always pretty put off by their attitude, to be honest. So she gives money to the British National Party, and I found quotes with Sheila Butler saying, you know, the reason she gives money to the British National Party is because every time she steps on the street, she sees someone with a face that isn't white. She's extremely racist. So she's from that old ilk of the eugenicist, you know, supreme racist type, you know, and we know who those are, the black nobility and all those people with those kind of ideals. She fits in there. And then she's the person who's donating money to the UK column to set it up. Now, I would just like to say the money she donates, she has because of who Lord Kitchener was. He sat on the Queen's Privy Council, he had so many knighthoods, and he was responsible for annihilating the Boers in South Africa. I would just like to say that the Boers were fighting for their freedom. They left the British settlement at the Cape Colony to start their own republics, one of them being the Orange Free State. And the fact they're searching for their freedom is obvious in the fact that, can I just say, the fact that we actually called it the Orange Free State shows that we were fighting for our freedom. We even have a town in South Africa called Vryheid, which means freedom. Okay, because the Boers moved away from the British at the Cape Colony to escape their suppression. And guess what? When gold was found on the Boers' land, the Brits came and fought two wars. The first one, they had their asses handed to them. The second one, they came and it was more expensive, 5 times as expensive as the Gulf War, okay, and the same cost combined of the First and Second World War to Britain is what? The Second World War, which happened in South Africa from 1901 to 1903, cost Britain. They were so desperate to get the resources of South Africa, the gold and the diamonds, that they spent an absolute fortune, okay, killing off the Boers, which are my ancestors. I have ancestors who were killed and died in concentration camps. And this is the money that has gone into setting up the UK column. And people want to know why I've got such a big issue with the UK column. They don't think it's a big deal that genocide money has set up this thing. Because most British people, of course, wouldn't take the sides of the Boers, okay, because of the fact that they won the war against the Boers. So it's difficult to get people in Britain to understand and empathize with this stance. But genocide is genocide. It doesn't matter what nationality you are. It's wrong.
Well, I'm on the view that if it's being set up and funded by people from within the state and it's controlled by the state, and then if people have to buy their truth, then the truth is watered down so people can profit off of that. So the less people buy these truths and look for real truth, then you're going to find it. Like, you don't need money to speak the truth and spread that info. And when people say, well, of course you do, you spread the info more. That is total bunkum. I've been doing it for 3 years without money, spreading the word, and I seem to be quite well known at what I do, and that's without profiteering at all, taking 1 penny at all, like from any donation funds or anything like that. People have helped me all across the country, up and down. Even the guys from this radio station, I didn't even know them a few weeks ago. They got in contact with me and said they were looking for guests and hosts for the show. I went up to meet them. They're doing an allotment project, which I think is a really good thing. I don't agree with them or one of the people trying to get lottery funding. I don't think that will help at all. That will just get it controlled by the state. So once you've got it and you're doing something good, you can go out there and do it anyway. You don't need funding from some government body who are then going to tell you what you can and can't do. So when you look at things like the BCG, the British Constitution Group, or Occupy, Anonymous, groups like this that are coming forward, pretending to speak for everybody else, and they seem to have an agenda behind them. And with Occupy and Anonymous, which both got heavily involved with a highly great thing as well. They claimed to not have a leader, but when they set up, it was all these people come and put themselves in these positions of self-appointed leadership, whether it be the General Assembly, which we found was run by Common Purpose, or the working groups that had Tavistock Institute doing social dreaming, or the finance was all going to Climate Camp, promoting the climate change scam. So everywhere you look, the security team had a guy that instructs High Court enforcement bailiff officers. So everyone that was in a position of control in Occupy was, or acting as a leader in the leaderless movement, had government ties at a very strong level and were there to manipulate. And I haven't really got my finger fully on Anonymous yet. What do you know about Anonymous?
Well, it's the same story. To be honest with you, we need to look at, and it's not very hard to discern who are the people trying to distract us. It's the people that are leading us away from the solutions. Okay? And the solutions are really based around, first off, truth, integrity, and common heritage of all human beings, you know, promoting that sort of stance. Anyone who's, and I tell you the whole Occupy and Anonymous thing that got me when it started getting going in London, which it's very obvious just how hypocritical, if you just look in at the situation from the outside in Holland, looking in through the BBC and watching how they were occupying outside St. Paul's Cathedral. And then you hear one of the people from Occupy standing on the steps talking to a BBC presenter saying, yes, we're working with the church to come to a solution. I'm thinking, why are you working with the church? St. Paul's Church is like the representation of the Roman Catholic Church in London City, you know, in the banking region. For a reason, it's there. You know, it's the Roman control. It's a Roman cult, a sort of Babylonian temple, right? Why are they working with it? You know, they should be occupying inside of it, not working with the church. I just didn't understand why they were pointing fingers away from the culprits. Anyone that points the finger away from Rome is deliberately working to distort the truth. That's the bottom line, and it's so simple principle.
Because I think the simple solutions, because people that find out this sort of stuff are all caught up in the system anyway. They're locked in. People seem to think that they need money to live because they've been programmed their whole life to stick in this old Roman civil law system of having that middleman, i.e. paper and silver coins, to use instead of your skills or bartering or anything else you've got.
Yes.
And I don't see how people like that are going to support the church as such. Like right, this is one thing that happened down at Occupy. I called it the failed pussy riot. When they had their reunion for their birthday, they set up with the church that they were allowed to do a talk inside St. Paul's on a Sunday service.
Wow.
So, hang on. Yeah, right. So you know how strong this is. St. Paul's Cathedral allowed a group of protesters to do a talk inside St. Paul's.
My word.
So they've done their talk and everything, and then at the end of her speech, 4 of them have got up and chained themselves up to the barriers. And I've got some cracking footage that I need to edit and put up because I've got my camera out and started filming, and one of the guys that works in the church, a verger, came over to me and he said, sorry sir, no filming in here please, no filming. And I said, well, what about all of them people over there that have got cameras and filming? And he said, oh, they've all got licences from the chapter house. Do you have a licence from the chapter house? I said, no, I don't need one, this is from Sony. And he goes, well, I've already spoken to you, I'm going to leave it at that now. And he walked away. But when you look at that, Occupy had to go through the chapter house and get a licence for all them people to film. Also, the BBC, ITV, Sky News, they were all there inside with their permits to film in there. So this was a little job between the media, Occupy and the church. This is a government operation to manipulate people, to control them in a fake revolution. And when people kick off, they can take all their rights off them and eventually put them in martial law, RFID chip. Who knows what's coming?
That's a brilliant story, Dom. Do you know what? That absolutely typifies exactly the hypocrisy. The fact that the church is supporting them shows that they're working in coordination with the devil.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't know if you know about the stuff that I was doing down Occupy St Paul's in London and Finsbury Square and the Bank
Yes,
of Ideas.
I saw some of the footage.
Yeah, we exposed that the Bank of Ideas was a registered limited company.
Yes, I saw all of that.
Since 2009, it became live when they opened it up. We found so much about this place. The Tavistock Institute's headquarters is literally a 2-minute walk up the road. So these are the mind manipulators of the world. And I said to people, it feels like you're living with 10 Darren Browns down here, because people were down there manipulating people. And I'm watching it, but I've got no proof who these characters were until I started finding out and naming names, like i.e. Saskia Kent, who was running the General Assemblies. I've got a question coming. It's been asked a couple of times, and
sure.
Sorry, we've been free-flowing. But somebody said, ask her about Israel, whatever that means.
Israel. It's a very big topic. Can you be more specific about that? What do you want to know?
Prajna, if you'd like to type in a little bit more on that.
Well, I'll give you, if you want to give me more specifics, type in, and I'll give you what I would really like to share about this topic, and that is, first off, we must stop using the word Zionism, okay? And the very simple reason is that Zionism, if you look it up in Wikipedia, comes up with the definition of Jewish nationalism. Now, I've grown up, I'm not Jewish, I'm not any religion. In fact, you know, I have been around a lot of Jews my whole life, and a lot of them actually just don't give a damn about this whole Israel thing. They just, you know, want to practice Jewish tradition, raise their families, you know, and just get on with life. They're very annoyed that their religion is being used for political motivations. And to be honest with you, the word Zion comes from the word Sion, which is sun. All right, and Sion actually is a Catholic order, the Priory of Sion. If anyone's seen the Da Vinci Code, they'll know the Priory of Sion was an order of the Roman Catholic Church. The Zionists, or whoever people are labeling those people are as Zionists, are nothing more than papal court Jews. They're Catholic Jews. I call them cashews. So when we're pointing fingers at the Jews and blaming them for everything, all we're doing is feeding into the confusion. And you go walking through the streets of New York, they'll all tell you, oh, there were no Jews in the World Trade Center. You know, that may very well be true, but that was probably orchestrated so that people can say there were no Jews in the World Trade Center, because for years the Jews have been hung out and have taken the brunt. They've been the kicking dogs of the Roman cult, whilst being, you know, paraded around as the bad guys. But it's the same. America at the moment is being paraded around as the bad guys. But America, you know, because all they do is manufacture and export arms. That's the only thing they export. They are a war state. But we are looking at them saying they're the bad guys, but they're being manipulated from Europe. You with me?
So so these Catholic Jews, are they nuts?
It's a very good question. You know, let's if you want to go to the deeper levels of this, what I would say is that what is being done by the deeper, darker levels of the controllers, however they may be, whatever they may be, all right, they're doing it because, and I've got a book coming out called The Covenant of Salt, which will explain this in more detail. They have a duty to anchor the darkness on this planet to facilitate our evolution. And I know this is hard for people to understand, but really, when you're looking at us as human beings evolving here, we don't only evolve through light. You know, it's through struggle, you know, that we overcome adversity, and we are at our best when we're overcoming adversity. That's when we grow, we mature. And sometimes these things are put in front of us so that we can look at them, decide to work through them, decide we don't want to be anything like them, but learn from it. And it's not always just the good things you learn from. You learn more from the bad stuff. And yes, there is all this stuff being organized and put in front of us, and there's horrible people doing all these things. But at the same time, we need to say, what are we learning from it, and how can we make the world a better place? You know, they are serving a purpose too. Don't forget that. Everything within our creation serves its purpose, even the darkness.
So what would you say to people if because we're all looking at the problems in the world, what would you say to people as the solutions to these problems that people perceive that they have?
Oh, that's a great question, Dom. You know what? You're a really good journalist. I'm so pleased you've asked that, actually. Well, I'll give you a good example of a solution that has come up, and I don't know if any of you have been following the story, but I've kept my nose quite close to it, and it's the story of the One People's Public Trust. I have actually, just before I was speaking to you, was doing my weekly radio broadcast on Finding Voices Radio, and I was interviewing the people who were involved with setting up this public trust. And, well, the solution is there. Well, I don't know if you know this, but officially and legally, every single corporation and every single bank and every single government in the world is now bankrupt and in default due to this trust which has been set up. And I suggest you learn more about it from the information which I'll be posting, and everyone's getting a buzz about it, because this could truly be our opportunity to be free. We are actually legally, as it stands now, we are free.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So this One People's Public Trust, is this the same as Darren Dioge's public trust, or People's Public Trust, or is it different?
No, it's different. I'll give you an example of how this actually worked. One of the ladies, a woman called Heather Tucci Giraffe, she basically, through various processes, she was foreclosed upon, and she, having legal training, decided to take them on with her knowledge. And she tried various processes and got to various points where, she hadn't actually ended up having to pay anything out or be imprisoned, but she was getting somewhere with her legal dealings, climbing a step higher. And eventually she ended up at the door of Uniform Commercial Code, which is the code which underpins all commerce throughout the planet. And what she did was she got to a place where she actually drafted a letter which she got put into the public record, saying, could you please present a claim that that you have a claim on us that's higher than the creator. And they had to respond by a certain time. And they were supposed to respond, I think, by the 21st of December 2012 or something, or 25th or something, and they defaulted. So by their own legal system, they are now in default. And the entire Uniform Commercial Code hasn't in fact been turned on its head, which means, think about this, every government and every bank, all debt has been wiped out legally, technically, officially, but we just don't know it yet. Yes, and they're setting up, they've got these ideas about these creative value activation centers, which they're setting up online systems by which our value is used in trade and commerce. And what they said is the last thing we need to do is actually take all the money of the world and redistribute it to all the people, because the people at the very top, they're very smart. They'll have all that money back in 5 years. We've got to get rid of the current monetary system altogether and use what's real value, not fabricated theoretical liability on paper.
So do you think that can come about in this current climate?
$1 million question. God, I hope so.
The way I see it is basically when you've got these powers that be, these elites that have set up this system for thousands of years, and they've been controlling people covertly as well as overtly, pretty damn well. Now, I recognise the corruption, and I don't think there's too much I can do about it except speak my truth and expose what is going on. On top of that, where I recognise the corruption, I decide not to use it. I don't use banks. I don't even use the name anymore that's tied to the birth certificate, which is the bonded instrument that enslaves you to that world of commerce. Mm-hmm. So I've decided just to say no to all of that.
Good for you.
Yeah. And I know most people can't do that because they have families, obligations, jobs, and this is all done through the name, the date of birth, signatures, and people don't know how to step out of that without doing themselves harm.
Yes.
Like people that are not going to use the name and rebel against the system, then they'll come and take things off of you that you think is your property. But at the end of the day, you cannot own anything on this planet. You're a free being. But when you claim ownership, that's when you start to get tied down to this system. And when you make claims in their system, the courtrooms, that's when you lose, because it's all just one game of fiction.
Yes. Well, let me explain this public trust to you just for a minute. The bottom line with this public trust is that it's actually been set up in such a way that all you have to do, if you have somebody coming onto foreclosing on you, sending a bill, what people have done is they've downloaded the templates from the public trust website, which I've supplied to you guys, okay, And they basically said, sorry, you've been foreclosed upon. I'm now dealing with your trustees. Because everything on the planet is now owned by the People's Trust. This is how big this is. It's huge. It's a massive story. Massive to get your head around. But please look, I've sent you the information. It is just breaking in the last month. I've just had these trustees on to speak to me. It's incredible what they've managed to do legally. Legally, these people don't have a leg to stand on if they come for you. They don't, because you know what? They can't foreclose on you for your property. They don't even own it anymore.
Yeah, I understand all this, but like when you've got 10 bailiffs at the door with a few police officers who are all ignorant of this information, and they have a procedure, and they think they're doing the right thing by their jobs. How could you explain it to 10 bailiffs when they're about to smash your door in and kick you out under a court order, which is totally fraudulent?
To be honest with you, it shouldn't get to that point. You should be filing these claims before you have bailiffs banging down your door. Most of the time they'll leave you alone after that, because they have not got a legal leg to stand on. They can't legally sanction they can't legally get a bailiff to go to your front door if they know that your property is not even owned by the people who are trying to get it from you.
Well, I'd love to get to know these people from One People's Public Trust a bit more, and hopefully get them on the show too. Because
yes, they would love to speak to you, Dom. And you know what? If you can, get to know the information and try to help spread the fact that we are free. We are now legally have the ability to free ourselves, okay? And we must stop being scared.
Okay, yeah. But it's like even people like, what's his name? Dean Clifford. He's a bit of a... or seemed to be a bit of a guru within free man and the law information. And this week he's been arrested and
has he?
Taken off of him. Yeah, it's like, even with all that phenomenal knowledge, and I've got a very good friend in London at the moment who has served all the correct paperwork. There's a lot of work also being done in the private, so I can't really talk about it.
Yeah.
But they don't acknowledge it, or when he's sending off paperwork, they'll hold it in cyber, and it's just floating on a recorded delivery, so they've never received it. And they try all these tricks. You know what I mean? The postmaster generals at the top and things like that, they know exactly what's going on and who to look out for when we're sending these documents. So it is their corruption. Are they going to listen to our pieces of paper when their pieces of paper are the ones that are being enforced?
Well, this is a question I ask these people.
Public trust.
I ask these people that same question. I have the same questions and the same fears and the same doubts as you. The practicalities of it all, yes. You know, when people are knocking down your door, the bottom line is that they're doing it unlawfully. And what we now got to start doing is start educating people. Start with the local sheriff. Start saying, do you know that the police force is no longer part of the government? The government's not even, it's bankrupt. You know, there is ways of educating the public. But until all of us actually kind of get to a critical mass point where we're aware that we are free and that we are being legally detained in a system that's actually been foreclosed upon, defunct, no longer, we will not be able to use some of the laws that we have in our current system in future because they've been reneged by this People's Public Trust ruling. It's a big story, and one of the things that I ask is that they said that one of the things they did was, write up an affidavit, take it down to your public courthouse and have it entered into the public record. You know, they can't not enter into the public record, and let the people know that actually we are making attempts to sort of make the public officials aware that we know that they are now bankrupt. Okay, and you don't have to legally play to their system because they don't legally have a hold on you. Their legal system is now defunct.
So this One People's Public Trust, are they the trustees and you put your property in with them and then become the beneficiary?
No, not at all.
Is it a case law that you're pointing out?
They don't take over anything from you. Everything we own belongs to everybody else on this planet. Our value is in us. The woman who set it up comes from a very, very spiritual point of view. Eventually, we want to move to a system where we don't actually even have to think, we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about surviving. We will, and we don't have to worry about borders and how we're going to get somewhere, because we can get there. We don't have to think about the money anymore. That's what every decision is based on. And you know what? I think it is literally just round the corner with what they've done. And I don't know how legitimate it'll be once the powers that be get hold of it and start tearing it apart. What I'm saying is what they've done is groundbreaking. They've done something no one else has ever done, which is challenge the Roman cult's claim on us as their possessions, which no one has ever done before. And they've managed to turn Uniform Commercial Code on its head, which has huge implications for everything. So whether or not that manifests in any way, what I would say is we've got to start looking at this and perhaps, saying, we've turned you on your head, why should we listen to you? We've got a ground to stand on now.
So let me tell people what that website is. It's www.peoplestrust1776.org.
Yes.
And people will find all the information Mel was talking about on that.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up to the end of the show, Mel, so is there any last little bits that you would like to shout out to people, and also drop the info for your website one more time?
Yes, well, I'll have a clip, because I said I've just interviewed those people, the trustees, the public trust. I have a clip up on that for you guys tomorrow, and that'll be up on our website, freedomcentral.info, and of course, thank you, Dom, for having me on your show. You're very brave, because not many people have the balls. I don't make friends within the truth movement because I've outed so many of the people that people look up to and aspire to. So thanks a lot and for giving me this opportunity.
The first time that I came across you was when I used to look at Charlie Beach's work, and when he came over to Amsterdam.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stories about Charlie nowadays.
Yeah, yes, indeed, absolutely. So yeah, I suppose that's probably when a lot of people got to know me, because Charlie had such a huge audience. No, I did my David Icke interview. I think had over 200,000 views. That's I think first people came to know me, but nonetheless, I've evolved so much since that time, and my beliefs and who I believe and who I trust now has changed with time as well. So that's all I can say about that.
For sure. Right, it's been an absolutely great show tonight. Now, loads of people have been saying what great info you've been telling people, and I'm more than welcome to come back on my show again.
Absolutely love to. Anytime, just send me an invite and I'm there.
Brilliant, Mel. All right then, thank you very much, and everyone that's been listening, if you want to catch the podcast, it will be on my channel for sure, commonly known as Dom on YouTube. You can even add me on Facebook, I'm commonly known as Dom, and please mind the trolls, because there's many clone accounts of me. Have a good night, and after the break we'll be having the Darkcity crew call in, so that's always interesting waffle from the whole crew. Alright, good night and love you all.
Bye.